Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to day 2 of our Riverside County Google Camp, brought to you by Riverside County Office of Education and the Menifee Union School District. My name is Dennis Large. I'm the Director of Educational Technology at the Riverside County Office of Ed. And my friend and colleague here will introduce himself.
Good morning, I'm Steve Thornton, Director of Technology with Menifee Union School District. It's great to join you for this second day.
All right, and you can tell that Steve and I are looking fabulous in our tropical wear. That's the theme for the day. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. I did want to give everybody a reminder that in SCED, in order to be able to see all of the presenters, the people who are speaking this morning, and the slides at the same time, if you go up to your view options at the top of your screen, you can select side-by-side mode, and that will allow you to see both the speakers and the slides. All right. We have a couple of traditions at Google Camp. This is our 5th year doing Google Camp, so when you do something for a while, some traditions come out. One of those traditions is that every year one of our presenters, Jason teacher in Harupa Unified, creates, he does woodworking. That's one of his passions, and he always creates something really beautiful to share at Google Camp. So use the chat. Can you figure out what this is, what Jason made this year? This might help. Let me show this. So guesses. What did Jason make? So that's good. So Jason made a steampunk rocket desk lamp. I mean, that's just amazing. It truly is. Like I said, woodworking is a passion of his. And woodworking, as those of you who do it know, and those of you who don't, like me, can guess, that it's a creative and a hands-on endeavor, right? But still, technology permeates every aspect of our lives. And so I want you to just, in the chat, we'll give about 30 seconds. Can you guess some ways that technology may have been involved in the way that Jason created this project? Oh, I love it. All those Googling research. Ooh, 3D printing, that's a good guess. So, all right. I love it, looking up designs. So Jason presented yesterday, he's also presenting today. So if you go to his session, he'll tell you how technology was involved. Like I said, I'm not sure there's any of our endeavors anymore don't involve technology in some way. All right.
So good morning, everybody. Another Google Camp tradition we have every year is in having a tropical day. I have my hat. Unfortunately, with my blended lenses, if I hold it down so you can see it's a hat, I can't see. So I'm not wearing the hat. But I do have a tropical shirt on. I've got my puka shells. I've got all that kind of stuff to participate. So what we're going to do this year, if you are wearing something tropical, add something that you're enjoying or learning and go to your social media, be sure and use hashtag IE Google Camp, and we will randomly select 10 winners for next year's for a drawing to participate in Google Camp next year for free.
All right, thank you, Steve. Whoops.
Sure.
I forgot that I was clicking.
This is a real tight coordinated process we have here on Dennis.
All over it.
So, kind of another, I would call it a tradition, is that every year Schools First has been a wonderful partner to us. We've had David Gumpertz from Google Camp participate with us every year, not only providing a great cash participation that's helped us with our bags and helped us with our speakers and things like that, but also presence and letting people know how important Google Camp is. David Gumpertz, as you know, has been our ice cream man, and when we've been meeting physically, he provides a big box of ice cream and hands it out to everybody at Google Camp both days. So unfortunately, Dave could not join us this year because he has his 30th wedding anniversary and decided to actually participate with some kind of Google Camp with his wife instead of with us. So we are fortunate to have Nicole. Do we need to advance the slide? Oh, we did advance the slide. I'm sorry, it's on my own deck. Nicole Russell, who's Membership Development Specialist from Schools First, who's
Thank you.
joined us.
Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone, or should I say aloha?
Aloha, there you go, perfect.
Aloha. All right, let me share my slides with you here. So my name is Nicole. I am a Membership Development Specialist for Schools First Federal Credit Union. We are actually the nation's largest credit union for school employees. So if you're already a happy member, go ahead and drop the little smiley face in the chat box there to just share with your peers that you're a proud member of Schools First. Just a couple of things that we do, since we are a credit union for school employees, our products are going to be unique and specially designed for your specific needs. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of those for you here. And then if you have any questions, go ahead and chat them in the box as well, and we'll get to those as soon as we can. So for my existing members, we're all in a huge pandemic. I don't think that's a big surprise. We have been deferring your loan payments. So if you aren't aware that that's an option for you, if it's going to help you, please contact us. We can defer your loan payments for up to 3 months. We also partner with GreenPath. They're a financial wellness partner of ours, and they can help you with some debt consolidation options. We have very great interest rates on personal loans as well. The Summer Saver, one of my personal favorites. It's designed to help you save money for the summertime if you're not receiving a paycheck. The interest rate, as you can see, is one of the highest in the nation, 3.25%. It's liquid, no minimum balance. You can deposit up to $2,000 a month. That's not a problem that I have, but I like to be transparent with the rules. So up to $2,000 a month, and you can earn 3.25%. And if you compare that to your regular bank savings, I want to say the average is 0.1. So you're going to earn more interest with us in the Summer Saver in, I would say, 1 year than that traditional bank will pay you in about 30. So it's worth it. And again, there's nothing to lose. Summer is off with no car payment. If you're not receiving a paycheck during the summer, this is perfect for you. If you are receiving a paycheck in the summer, you can still do this. Put the money in your pocket for vacation. 2 months, you can skip your car payment every year during the summertime, no questions asked. Our credit card, our school employee credit card earns 1.5% cash back on all purchases. The greatest part is our interest rates start at 7.5%. So if you compare that to a store credit card, if anyone here is still paying off Mervyn's, okay, balance transfer that over to Schools First. There is no fee, and you can earn 1.5% cash back on all those purchases, and guess where the cash back goes? Into your Summer Saver. So you're earning interest on your cash back reward. Another great thing about Schools First is we are part of the co-op network, which means there's more free access to ATMs across the United States than any other financial institution can offer, because we partner with other credit unions. We partner with 7-Eleven, Costco. All those places are free for you to make withdrawals. And we're not asking you to cancel your existing bank account. Use us as a supplement to do things for you that other places just simply can't offer because they don't do what Schools First does. And membership is entirely free. We only ask for a $5 deposit into a savings account, but with a promo code of JOIN542. So if you're interested in joining, this is our website. You can enter in a promo code JOIN, J-O-I-N 542, and we will deposit that first $5 for you. So you don't even have to pay your minimum balance to start, and you can take advantage of as little or as much as you want. We are a full service financial institution. We love you guys. We're so happy to partner with you. And if you have any additional questions before you'd like to join, please write down this phone number and extension, and we are there to help you. So thank you so much. Let me stop sharing my screen. And it's always a pleasure to partner with you guys with Google Camp. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much.
Schools First is the best.
Thank you.
All right, yeah. Thank you, Nicole. You probably couldn't see this while you were talking, but you need to go back to the chat and look at Schools First was getting a lot of love in the chat as you were speaking. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, awesome. All right. You know, as Nicole was mentioning, you know, things have changed, and as you start this new school year, things are different. Things are different for you, but we do want to remember, all of us, first things first. You know, we need to connect with our students. So we need to remember to check in with them, ask them how they're feeling, how are they doing, how is their family doing, if they need anything, and just let them know that you are thinking about them, that you care about them, and that you miss seeing them face to face. So one of the great teachers here attending Google Camp would use this image to actually send a physical card out in the U.S. mail to all of her students, just to make sure that she's starting the year with that connection with them. And as a father, I'd be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to embarrass my daughter, who is Ms. Gonzalez, a elementary teacher in Banning Unified. And so I can, even across the ether, I can feel her eyes rolling at me right now. But I do think it's really important to make sure that we're making that connection. And someone who is highly skilled at making connections and reminding us to do so is Lainie Rowell, our keynote speaker for today. Lainie is an educator and an international speaker. Her areas of expertise include professional learning, community building, and designing innovative learning experiences. During her 22 years in education, Lainie has taught elementary, secondary, and higher ed. She also served in a district level leadership position, supporting 22,000 students and 1,200 teachers at 33 schools. As a consultant, Lainie's client list ranges from Fortune 100 companies like Apple and Google to school districts and independent schools. Lainie is a TEDx speaker with more than 15 years of experience presenting at local, regional, and international conferences, including the Building Learning Communities Conference and Leadership 3.0 Symposium. Since 2014, Lainie has been the consultant for the Orange County Department of Education's Institute for Leadership Development, facilitating professional learning for administrators. You can learn more about Lainie at lainierowell.com. And I can tell you that you guys are truly fortunate today to have Lainie spending some time with us. So Lainie, I'm sorry, I meant to stop sharing a little bit earlier. Everybody, here is Lainie.
All right, thank you, Dennis. So can you see my screen? I'm actually using a tool right now, otter.ai. I'm doing auto transcription and it's grabbing audio notes. This is one of my favorite tools. It's a great support. If your families can't be there to listen to what's happening in class, they can at least look at the notes. So I didn't clear that with you, Dennis. Are you okay with this?
Super cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. way to put you on the spot. I've never invited you. All right. So first of all, thank you to Dennis. Thank you all for being here. I'm so excited, and wow, I'm just constantly inspired by my colleagues who give up their summer time to keep learning and keep growing. So, you know, grab your coffee or something stronger. You didn't drive here. I'm not here to judge, right, Dennis? We talked about this earlier. It's so I'm just gonna dive right in. And like Dennis said, everything that I share is gonna be on lainierowell.com under the resources section, and let's get started. So at the end, I will be doing a giveaway, and spoiler alert, if you were here yesterday, I don't want to disappoint you. It does not include or involve a celebrity, and there is no cured meat involved, but there is something cool. So I hope you'll be into that. And I'm going to start off with something. Whenever I'm doing sessions synchronously, I like to do an SEL practice at the beginning and the end. So we don't have a lot of time. I'm just going to do some 5-2-5 breathing. This is one of my favorite things. I share this with my kids all the time. We do this practice because we love a calm jar, but we don't always have a calm jar with us. You always have your breath with you, right? So we're gonna do a little 5-2-5 breathing. So I'm gonna breathe in slowly and deeply for 5, hold it for 2, and let it out for 5 slowly. And I hope you'll do this with me. All right, now we're ready to go. Repeat as necessary. Okay, shameless plug starts now. I have a book that was just released. My co-authors, Christy Andre and Lauren Steinman. This book was a learning journey, to say the least, and I just kind of am gonna use these 3 concepts that we learned to frame our conversation today. So one of the first big things that revealed itself as we were writing this book about how do we do professional learning better is the need for continuous improvement through cycles of inquiry. Like, that's critical, and I'll touch on that a little bit today. The other thing is that social emotional learning is essential for all. That's kids and adults, and I'll touch on that a little. And then I really want to talk about how we can do so much growing professionally when we're willing to learn from kids, peers, and the world. And I want to start off with something that has to do with that cycle of inquiry, identifying what is your problem of practice. So I really encourage you to think about what is something that is a challenge for you in the classroom. And it might be a struggle right now to limit that to 1. But if you can think about what is your biggest focus right now, and that's really the start of a cycle of inquiry, right? What is our focus? And so we took a cycle of inquiry and we added all of these words from other cycles of inquiry. We're not trying to reinvent a cycle of inquiry. We're just trying to make connections. And so if you can, during our time together, during your time today, if you could think about what is your problem of practice, and does this apply to what I'm really trying to solve for? I would love it if you, and I won't be able to check it, but Dennis, you'll let me know. If you could drop in what your problem of practice is, that would be awesome. That's not required, but it would be great. So I'll tell you that this could be a problem of practice, and maybe you felt this when you were in the spring with remote teaching. This is inspired by my mentor, Alan November, and he would often ask teachers, who's working the hardest in the classroom? And it's always unanimous that the teacher, or usually it's unanimous that the teacher is working the hardest. And so it might have felt that way in the spring too, you pushing a lot of stuff out and you working really, really hard to stay engaged with your learners and stay connected to them. So what we want to do is we want to shift from that teacher-driven to that learner-driven. And so I want to talk about, and there's no expert on what we're going through right now. So this is what I've learned. This is what's working for me. And I just want to share some strategies with all of you. And with that, I want to honor that there's no one way to do any of these things. And this is one of my favorite words, equifinality. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but it basically means like, we could all get good results doing different things. So I think it's important to honor that there's not just one way. So I'm just going to share what's working for me. Now, this could be a potential problem of practice. A lot of people are worried about, if I start fully online or even hybrid, will I be able to build community in the same way? And I believe the answer is yes. I definitely think you can do it. Dennis, you gave a great example. What a nice form of teacher presence, mailing that out to your students, physical, like I'm here for you. I love that. And there's a lot of really great ways we can do this online. I would argue I sometimes get to know learners even better online, especially my introverts, the ones who aren't going to raise their hand in class. So I think there's a real great opportunity to get to know our learners even better. And so that can happen synchronously and asynchronously. And I'm going to talk a bit about that throughout. So this is a Google conference, so I would be remiss if I didn't mention Google. And so obviously you could be using Google Meet for the synchronous. And then you've got this collaborative online space, Google Classroom, that could be used asynchronously. And then you've also got other tools that you can incorporate. So one of the things that I really want to stress is that it really isn't about the tools, it's about the relationships the tools enable. And so we have so many resources at our disposal to really connect with our kids. And I get really excited about that. And so from the beginning, what I'm trying to do when I'm building community is one of the first things is to co-create shared expectations. Now, don't get me wrong, I have my non-negotiables, the stuff that this is how it's going to be. But I really want to start building in that that ownership and agency. And so can we create shared expectations? I think that's something we really want to do. I'm going to foster the individual connections, me to the student, peer-to-peer connections. That's all stuff that's really, really important to me. I want to make sure that everyone is seen and heard. That's a really big deal to me. So I'm trying to think about ways to do that in the synchronous and the asynchronous. All right, so looking ahead, I hope this doesn't look too ominous, but I saw this picture and I kind of thought like, this really feels like maybe where we're at right now, where we're looking out and it's a little foggy. We're not quite sure what's ahead of us, but it's still a really great opportunity and I'm excited about what we can do. So I'm gonna keep going with that. So one of the things that I've been kind of thinking through is this idea of portability. And how can we do it so that we're not, if we do end up going back and forth, which is a possibility, how do we make that so we don't want to just tear our hair out? How do we make that the least stressful thing as possible? How do we make that the best for ourselves and our learners? And so one of the things I've been thinking about, and I was talking with a group of teachers, and I said, what if we stop thinking about it like face-to-face versus online, and we start thinking about it as, what do we want to do synchronously versus asynchronously? And I think when we release that like mental block of, oh, can this happen online or can this happen face-to-face? And we start to focus more on the synchronous versus the asynchronous, you know, when do we need that live interaction with each other versus when is it something that is an opportunity for asynchronous? And then another design consideration, and I'll get more into design in just a minute, is that concept of less is more. And so what are the key, like the critical knowledge, skills, and dispositions that we want our kids to have? All right, so I'm really curious, and I'm going to ask you to drop this in the chat. You know, how do you learn from kids? This is something that I think a lot about because I really believe that our kids are such a tremendous asset in the classroom if we're learning online and face-to-face. So how do you learn from kids? And I would love it if you would drop that in the chat. And so as part of that, I want to think about this concept of ownership of learning. And so, you know, I showed that graphic in the very beginning, the teacher at the front versus us all interconnected and more of a community of learners. And so I kind of think about this, like, where should I be in any given time? Is it, I want to be 100% teacher driven, and I'm not saying that we should never be there. Do I want to be 100% learner driven? And I'm not saying we should never be there. I don't actually think we need to live in any one place too long, but I want to be really aware of what are we doing, and is this more driven by me versus is this driven by the kids? And I'm really a big fan of inquiry-based learning, so I'm going to talk about that. And part of the design lens that I'm thinking through is, one, when I'm learning from kids, that helps me tailor instruction because I see what they're thinking. And so I'm really trying to focus on that. I'm also thinking about how can I increase student agency. So I'm a big fan of, and I'm guessing that many of you here have been involved with using the 5 E's. It's inquiry-based design. A lot of hyperdocs are designed with 5 E's in mind, which is awesome. And I love this idea because I went to school and I was taught in my teacher credential program that it's the teacher speaks first, right? In that traditional, it's direct instruction is at the top. And what I love about the 5 E's is it's actually going to push that down. And so it's actually going to give kids a chance to explore first. And so that to me is really beautiful. I love that. So I'm a huge fan of the 5 E's. I use it all the time. It's what matches with my style. And I love it. I have tried to condense it a little bit, you know, and Mike talked away about the questioning technique, question formulation technique, which I'm a huge fan of also. And to me, that fits really nicely in the engage and the explore, right? Let's have them ask questions before we start going right into like me talking about it. So huge fan of the 5 E's. I use it. I have started when I'm designing my online learning experiences, I've kind of consolidated a little bit and I've gone to the discover, discuss, demonstrate. And so it's still the 5 E's 100%. It's just a condensed version of it. And the reason I like to call that middle one discuss is because that's my reminder that that should be peer-to-peer learning too, not just me, but I want them talking to each other, both synchronously and asynchronously. So this is, again, and it's nothing new, other people have done this, but this is the model that's working for me right now. And as you can see, the 5 E's fits into it quite nicely, because in that discover, that's when you're doing the engage and the explore. In the discuss, that's when you're doing the explain, but it's not just me explaining it. A lot of times it's peers explaining it. And then the demonstrate, where we can elaborate. And whether you're doing 5 E's or 3 D's or whatever you want to call it, that evaluate is a continuous thing. And this is not a linear process. It's a cycle. We iterate, and that's what's really important here. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into the 3 Ds, and I hope you guys are chatting away, not just letting me talk. I want to hear you guys too, and I'll check that for sure as soon as I can. So for the D of discover, this is where I think we have a really great opportunity to create engaging content. And I'm not suggesting that we're creating from scratch. We've got high quality resources that we can use. And we've got these amazing Google tools that are great collaborative containers, right? Like we can work together to design this. It doesn't just have to be me. I get to leverage my team and work with them to build really high quality stuff. So my big thing is to design with empathy and implement with grace and patience. That's kind of been my mantra. And I'm really wanting to use the principles of universal design for learning. And I'm excited to share a little bit more about these Ds. And so the next one is this is where I learn the most from kids, I'll be honest. This is the discuss. And so during the discuss, when I'm really trying to foster that peer-to-peer, so you might use a Google Hangout for the synchronous, or a Zoom, or whatever your software is. And that's that chance for that immediate sharing of ideas and feedback, and I love that. And then there's also the asynchronous opportunities. And that's when we give the kids who need more time, who want more time to be thoughtful about what they're going to say. Those are great opportunities. Every voice gets heard. And that's something I really love. So whether you're using discussions in Google Classroom, or you're using discussions in a learning management system like Canvas, those are such great opportunities. I get really inspired when I get to hear what everyone's thinking. And then the demonstrate. So this is something pretty universal, whether you're using Google Classroom or a learning management system. Anything called an assignment is going to be, and you may already know this, but this is going to be an interaction between you and a student only. Peers will not see that work, right? But the other thing that's universal, whether you're using Google Classroom questions or a discussion board in Canvas or PowerSchool Learning or any of the other learning management systems, when you do the questions, that's a peer-to-peer opportunity, right? And so I want to leverage the best of those. So I want both of those. And so I'm trying to be really thoughtful about, well, maybe I'll start something in Google Classroom as an assignment. Maybe I'll use a template. Everyone's going to get a copy of it. And then before they turn it into me, they drop the shared link with the comments permissions enabled to a peer and ask the peer to review it. And then when they've had a peer review it, then they turn it into me through Google Classroom. And so I'm getting the best of both worlds. I'm getting that back and forth between the assignment teacher-student relationship, but I'm also getting that peer-to-peer. And you can decide, it's up to you. Are you gonna say, well, I'm gonna decide who your peer reviewer is, or are you gonna decide? And maybe you mix it up. Sometimes you decide and sometimes they decide. Okay, I'm gonna breeze through, and I could spend a whole day talking about formative assessment, no joke. This is like, I know that sounds like not the most exciting topic, but I actually love talking about formative assessment. And so I can feel Dennis laughing at me right now. So really quickly, I would just say, and I think this actually goes for face-to-face as well as online, but really we wanna prioritize the frequent, the low stakes, the authentic formative assessment. That's the most critical. And I won't spend a ton of time on this either, but I just love these two buttons. Like I seriously have a visceral happy reaction when I see these two buttons, because to me, these are the buttons that say the learning doesn't stop. And so I get very excited about the resubmit assignment, the take the quiz again. And these are opportunities, no matter whether you're using Google Classroom or a different learning management system. And I also want to just make this plug. I am not a huge fan of making video tutorials all the time. They're time consuming. I am really tired of hearing my voice, especially lately. And so anytime that I can get other people to make video tutorials, especially the learners, that serves two purposes. That's formative assessment. I get to have transparency on their thinking, and they're building content. And when that content is really strong, I can share that with others as a resource. All right, so learning from peers. So I've got another question for you. how have you stayed connected and learned from your peers during this cuckoo banana crazy time? Like, how have you guys been staying connected? Because that's something I want to spend a couple minutes talking about. And so if you want to drop that in the chat. So I mentioned at the beginning that I really like to start with an SEL practice at the beginning and the end. So I did the 5-2-5 breathing for us. Another really good one for the end is I started the session feeling tired and I'm leaving the session feeling inspired, something like that. I wasn't trying to rhyme there, it just happens. So anyways, I think that's a really good practice so that we can kind of see how everyone's feeling, and we want everyone to feel seen and heard. So I'm trying to think about how can I learn from my peers, just like with kids, how do I do it synchronously and asynchronously? And there's some really great opportunities. This is a cohort I'm working with in South America. I love these ladies. We do office hours every week, and at least half the group comes every time. And that's not, like, I'd like to take that as a compliment, but that has far less to do with me. It has way more to do with they want to talk to each other because they're constantly learning from each other. And so I love those synchronous opportunities. And then we have asynchronous opportunities as well. So any opportunity we can to share our practice, as well as how can we share the load of productivity. And we've got Google Drive, and we've got all these collaborative tools. So getting together with our teams, and even if you don't have a team on site that teaches what you do, get on Twitter and reach out and find someone to connect with that wants to do what you're doing. And there's a lot of people who are ready to work together and share. And then another thing while we're in this learning from peers section is just truly honoring our parents and families as peers. And I think, you know, it's really hard. We have, we have to have empathy for our families because a lot of times they want to be more involved than they can. So just trying to really appreciate, you know, what do they have as far as capacity to be involved, but assuming positive intent, and how can we bring them in as much as possible. So that's again why I like to use the Otter app, because I'm a working parent. I can't be on the 9 o'clock Zoom, but I still want to know what happened on the 9 o'clock Zoom. And watching that whole video is not realistic, but I can skim an auto transcription and see what was talked about. So I'm just trying to always think about them. School hashtags, and this will kind of lead us into talking about learning from the world. And so I want to know if you have a school or a district hashtag, would you drop that in the chat? Because I'm really curious what folks are using to stay connected, even before COVID and during and hopefully after, because I love school hashtags. I think that's a great way to share our story. And so I'm going to jump into learning from the world. And I won't read this to you, but one thing that I think is important is that we're very thoughtful about who's in our network online. And Adam Gant says you need to have a challenge network, people that will challenge you to think differently. So I'm trying to be really thoughtful in who I am reading online, who I'm connecting with online, because I don't need it to just be people who agree with me. I want people who really stretch my thinking and maybe have me challenge what I've been thinking. And so I'm curious, I know you guys are like, why does she keep asking us to chat? But if you have something that you want to share about how you're learning for the world in the chat, I will definitely be reading all of these. So I'm excited to hear that. Feel free to put it out on Twitter or Insta or wherever you are learning online. And then I want to add this, like if we don't tell the story of what's happening in our school, others will make up that story for us. And I think that there's been a lot of trust that when our kids are with us, they're learning, but we're doing so much work. And I don't know if parents always understand, if families always understand, or communities understand how much work we're doing to make sure their kids are learning, to make sure their kids are socially, emotionally healthy. So we really want to be telling that story. And so this is a school in New Orleans, and they do a beautiful job. This is their Insta page, or these are pulled from their Insta page. And they do a really beautiful job of sharing their story. And so I wanted to pass that on because I think that's a really good thing. And then one of the last things I'll say about social media is, I don't know about all of you, but I tend to suffer from time to time the comparison hangover, where I'm seeing what other people are doing and I'm feeling like I am not doing it. They're crushing it and I'm just barely treading water. So I would highly encourage you to try and avoid the comparison hangover and not compare yourself to others, but compare yourself to where you were 1 month ago, 6 months ago. Like, how have you grown? Compare yourself to yourself and not to others. And I think your experience, this is for me, makes my social media experience a lot better. And part of that also is, and this is from Austin Kleon, I do more searching online than I do feed. I can blow 3 hours in my Facebook feed or in my Insta feed, and that's when the comparison hangover tends to be the heaviest. And so I want to search more. I want to go find the answer. What is my problem of practice, and who can help me solve it? And so really staying focused on that is what is most helpful to me. So I'm going to start to close out, and I'm hoping to leave maybe a couple of minutes if Dennis, if you found like there were some good questions that you want me to try and answer.
Yep.
But I want to close out with like the equifinality again. There is no one way to do this. And I have a background in online and face-to-face, but no one has done this. So we have to try and figure it out together, and there's your way to do it. It doesn't have to be the exact same way as someone else. As long as we get good results in the end for kids, that's what we care about. So I know we're probably all fatigued, but I am incredibly optimistic that this is our opportunity to rethink school structures and redefine roles. Like, I really think this is such a gift. And so with that, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to get to the giveaway. And then Dennis, if we have any questions. So if you go to LainieRowell.com and then you go to resources or /resources. So here is, you can see all my halo lights. So here is my book. Should have asked for the mat cover. But here's the book. I'm going to be raffling off one of these. And then I've got, again, not celebrity related, no cured meat, but I do have some evolving learner stickers. I don't have like an infinite supply, but I do have some. So I'm going to try and give away as many of those as I can. And then this is my SEL wrap up. And then Dennis, if we have any questions. And it's in the form too, if you want to enter to win one of the stickers of the book. What is one word that sums up how you're feeling about our session today? You can drop it in the chat, you can put it in the form, or you can do both. All right, Dennis.
Lainie, that's amazing. Yeah, there are some questions that came up. I also wanted to share with you, because I know that you were engaged in your speaking, so you weren't seeing all the chat going. But it was amazing. You've truly inspired folks. But a couple of things that really stood out to me were you asked people about how they learn from students. And so the responses were just great. I loved people put in listening to the students, observing the students. And I think my favorite, and I didn't capture their name, but they were talking about how feedback is a two-way street, right? And not just having students give each other feedback, but getting feedback from your student as a teacher, you know. And so I love that.
How am I doing, right?
Right, yeah.
I did that for the interpreter. I'm talking so fast. I was literally watching him going, oh, this poor gentleman, I am not a slow talker, but he's doing great, thank you.
But I know that whole feedback thing is really important to you, and so I wanted you to know that was in there, that was coming through. Yeah,
it's great to hear. All right.
We did have there were a couple of questions in the Q&A, and some of them our team was able to just kind of answer as we went along. I know there's well, you can see these, Lainie. Someone asked for you to reiterate what app you were suggesting that parents use to view things later.
So I think in that particular instance, I was referring to Otter and how I'm using that for the auto transcription. But there are other ways, right? Like you can be a guardian in Google Classroom and be getting notifications about assignments. That's sometimes a feature that people don't use in Google Classroom. There's a lot of ways, but I think the big thing I would say about learning with parents and learning with peers is to make as much two-way communication as you can with families. I hear, with the best of intentions, but I hear a lot of assumptions about what families want. And I think we have to ask them and give them options, because what works for one family isn't going to necessarily work for my family. We have two people at home working, small children. So that's very different from what another family might need.
Right, yeah. And we did have a couple people asking about, and not that this is an area of your expertise, Lainie, but you know, about engaging learners who have special needs or who are like K1 or pre-K.
Well,
That's a real need out there.
It is. And I actually have a friend who is a special ed teacher. And when we got into this crazy cuckoo banana time, I went to her first. She was one of the first people. I was like, how are you doing this? And she's like, it's actually not, it's not amazing all the time. But she's like, I have really good connections with the families and they're involved. And that's a reality, if I can just be super honest, that in elementary online, if they're fully online, parents have to be involved. It's called the learning coach. There is no such thing as an independent online, especially 6-year-old, right? And it's the same thing with those who have special needs. And so I think we have to really think about how can we engage them? And so this teacher in particular, she was doing Zooms and she would have her TA take a group into a breakout room and she was getting really creative. But I think the key thing was that she was leveraging her paraprofessionals, and she was also really good with the family connection. I think those two things are very critical with our special needs, students who have special needs.
Great, perfect.
All right, I know we're about up for time, so I'm just gonna say the 2 plugs that I have, Dennis, is the book, obviously, because that was kind of what initiated this talk. But also, I want to let you know that I'm doing a podcast with Brianna Hodges, and we are doing Lemonade Learning. We're basically thinking through how this all is happening as parents and educators, and how we can make the best of it. And excited to let you know that probably today we'll be releasing an episode with our first guest, Katie Novak. And so very relevant, universal design for learning. So I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much, Dennis, and happy.
And Lainie, thank you. You need to go back and look at that chat, because when you ask people to give a word that the feeling right now, after hearing you talk, inspired and empowered came through. So awesome job. There you go, Lainie. So show Lainie some more love in the chat. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. That was a great way to kick off day 2. All right, Lainie. I'm going to take over the screen. All right. So, well, yeah, awesome. What a great way to start. I loved everyone who said that they were empowered and inspired by Lainie's talk, and I am too. I think all of us here on our team are as well. So just a quick reminder that we have another in our equity series at lunch today. We have Sue Thoughts, Tori Wadlington, Jennifer Dean, and Leticia Citizen talking to us about making learning spaces more welcoming and inclusive. So make sure that you attend that at lunchtime. Your first breakout session this morning starts at 9:30. So you start making your way over to the session that you want to go to. Remember to have a plan B in mind in case that first session fills up on you. All right, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for being with us, and enjoy Google Camp Day 2.